here. Okay, there we go. I co-founded Aquatics with my husband in 2022. Um, I love swimming. I have a background in Master's of Arts and Special Education. I'm also a BCBA, lifeguard certified. I have a water-based swim instruction, and then also working with um, children with autism, like doing ABA in home settings in the community, in clinic settings. And I just kind of blended my love for both swimming and behavior. And so my husband was kind enough to help me on the back end so I can work with kids, and then he helps me with like all the business stuff. So just a disclaimer, the presentation is only intended for educational purposes, not like a substitute for medical advice. All water related activities do pose inherent risks. And so just making sure that you always have supervision. This training is not intended for teaching swimming lessons, but should be just an added content and information. And then I'm also not affiliated with like the Red Cross or Starfish Aquatics, even though I hold their certifications.
We figured there's no other kids over there. That was, oh, yeah, we'll keep you busy.
Yeah.
I did a fishy.
Did a fishy?
A big fish.
Ooh, pretty cool. So the learning objectives that we'll just go over is recognizing why water safety gets missed and who's most at risk, identifying patterns and applying proactive strategies, and creating a personalized plan that engages the whole team.
We're just gonna do like a snippet to put online because nobody's around. We're recording it only because we couldn't decide, and we're like, we don't have to do it. We're recording, so sorry.
Oh, interrupting. Good. I mean, it's gonna help me. Okay, what could have happened? I used to live in Seattle, and I was talking to a PT there about water safety, and she had mentioned a client of hers who was an autistic adolescent male who loved water, and he would frequently go to the community swim pool with his family. And one time he ended up in the pool, family didn't know where he was, and the staff were like, "Oh, there's so and so with his clothes on." And it turns out like he was safe, but he knew how to get from his home to the community pool, and that's where he wanted to go. And so he was at risk. And it could have totally ended a different way. But that she was just highlighting the importance of elopement and at any age, and how that totally could have ended up differently, and the importance of just not only supporting families, but supporting the community and education.
Yeah, because if they wouldn't have known him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do your kids swim? Do they know how? Not yet. Yeah, that's Alyssa too. Alyssa now at 13 can, if she falls in the water, she'll doggy paddle enough to, but like if she were clothed, would she know what to do? Because that's a whole separate thing too. Would she know? Yeah. We'll do that with the center sometime. Just have her jump in with her clothes on. I don't think she'd even jump in with her clothes on, but just to see, because would she be able to still swim if she has her clothes? Uh-oh, somebody's upset up there.
Okay, so
Okay.
why water safety gets missed and who's most at risk. So some brief statistics. Drowning is the leading cause of unintentional injury-related death in the U.S. for children 1 through 4. Parents who, and I think this is just like so telling, parents who experienced a child drowning reported that they weren't supposed to be where they were, or that there was at least one parent nearby. So that just kind of shows how quickly it can happen. Drowning is a leading cause of death for autistic children who wander. And when children with autism go missing, they're most often found near bodies of water and within like half a mile away.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's quick.
Yeah, because what else would you worry about? I mean, you'd worry about like if it's the forest, never finding them or them starving or something, but all of that takes a long time.
Yeah.
Like if the kid is just wandering, like search crews and search crews, I mean, you'd likely find them.
Yeah.
And before they could, I guess, starve to death, or I don't know what else you would worry about except water is the one that you couldn't.
Yeah, water and traffic, because they're on their way to water. Sometimes it's one or the other. Yeah. Why water safety gets missed. So I just did the comparison chart here of kind of what families in general might experience, but then having neurodivergent children, just adding like extra levels of need or
Ooh, that's a great swimsuit. I love it.
how the lines on it.
You have one like that? Awesome.
They have the underwear.
Oh, it has underwear. Yeah, that makes sense.
Women underwear.
Yeah. Should we listen to what she says next? Okay.
You're so attentive.
Ow.
So in general, we all have like, competing priorities, whether it's like work, sleep, summer stuff.
There's the other one's hole.
Okay. Well, you got to work on them now so you can stay busy while Brea's talking. What can you stay busy doing?
I gave you that other coloring one too with everybody swimming.
You color that for us? We could have decorations. We'll take a picture of them and put them on our Facebook page with her presentation. Okay, so normal or general public, I like how you put that.
Why are you getting a big one?
So we have, just supervision in general, but then like, if you're distracted by chores or mealtime, statistics also show that between like 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, there's also higher drowning. And that's oftentimes when people are prepping for meals. It's so especially, yeah, like if you have a pool in your backyard, or even if it's a kiddie pool, parents aren't necessarily nearby watching. And then you just have general environmental risks like unlocked gates, toys near pools or in the bathtub that didn't get drained, general lack of awareness, or parents just thinking like, oh, this won't happen to me, which isn't uncommon or bad. And then limited community support. And then for neurodivergent families, it's that, but then adding in like all the behaviors or behavior plans or navigating school or, like future, all the like environmental vulnerabilities. So like behaviors in the community, maybe getting overly stimulated and having to kind of prepare for that. Gaps in education. So not having the full support of other people recognizing needs. And then just simple systemic barriers. So having long wait lists, lack of educated instructors or teachers. I know with like different insurances, there's limitations for just like education and support in general. And so this is just kind of adding to why water safety might get missed. And then on top of that, you have a lot of other complexities. So possibly not understanding or recognizing danger. So, for example, you have the diving sign or no diving sign, or just the different depths in the swimming pool. not recognizing what that is, having high rates of elopement, seeking different types of stimulation near the water, delays in communication or safety skills. So that could be even like requesting to go to the water, like if there's even like a lifeguard nearby and talking to them, like all of those pieces to stay and remain safe. And then also water can be calming for some people. And so seeking that or eloping and finding water, and then not being able to recognize that it's not a safe time, environment. So adding all these complexities to it. Okay, so where the disconnect happens. There's pusher swimming lessons, which I definitely agree with, but for saying like, oh, just put them in swimming lessons, just teach them how to swim, like that's not necessarily the best solution. Groups can be really overwhelming. You can have, like lack of engagement. I feel like that's kind of what I hear from a lot of community classes is just like the difficulty with behaviors and like they're not attending or they're trying to stay underwater or get to the other side of the pool or get out of the pool.
Yeah, Alyssa, we had her in
I have one.
swim lessons when she was little, and it was okay because none of the kids are very well behaved. But as they get older, it's like they were having to spend a lot more time with her, and I felt like the other parents were like annoyed with it because all the parents are on the edge, and it's like I just felt like she was taking more time than her fair share, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I totally relate.
We didn't do swimming lessons, but we did do a little bit of gymnastics and just a whole thing situation where they weren't big classes per se, but then I had to clear on the kids and just kind of teach. And then the version that was a little bit more one-on-one. That was really hard for him and the instructor to help.
It just feels like, okay, we only got 30 minutes here or 20, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like for my kid to be taking up all that time, you just end up not participating in the traditional lessons. So then it becomes money too. I mean, to do private lessons costs money. We
Yeah.
have the state support programs that I think could help, but
Yeah.
We grew up in Florida, so water safety was always a priority.
Yeah.
They were learning super young, so
That's good. Do they have it in the school system there?
we had swim teams in high school.
Oh, okay.
but like you said, I mean, like you're saying, though, swimming doesn't equate to safety though.
Yeah.
If they're fully dressed or their backpack is on and
Yeah. So with like the group lessons too, it's like I just feel so passionate about kind of like tweaking just the standard of things just so that things are more accessible. So instead of just like having like, okay, here's a standard and then you're either above it or below it, it's like you're making things accessible and then you're like adding support and then being able to decrease it rather than it's just simply not there. And so that's one of my things that I like to advocate.
yeah, but that takes staffing for
It does,
sure.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so yeah, exactly. You've got the staffing, the education, training, and then again, with like traditional lessons, there's just like less around sensory-based activities and communication or like support, which is really important, I think, for successful swimming. And then, I mean, you have strong swimmers can still wander or drown at any time, with or without like a swimsuit or day clothes or.
And a strong swimmer might be overconfident or not gauge their skills too well or not gauge the distance too well across the. I
Yeah,
think in Pactola, like there's places where I personally think I could swim across, but really I know enough to be like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, if you don't estimate your skills very well.
Even my oldest is a good swimmer, but we were at Angostura and he's on one of those mats and he stepped off and it was deeper than he expected. And
I got a surprise.
yeah, and my husband and I both dove out there and that still scares him. That was 5 years ago.
Once you're panicked, that's
Mhm.
oh, yeah.
for
Mhm.
consideration, I'm sure.
Now, we have that, the ledge that goes into the wall, and then one side it goes around to the skill off, and the other side's kind of like shallow, and you can play a little bit. and she decided to step off the wrong side.
Oh, yikes.
So, I mean, I was like right there.
Fear to the grabber.
I didn't have to jump in that baby grabber.
Oh, wow. It's still scary though.
Yeah.
When it's not what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And
It
it's
is.
hard to recover from those moments too. Like I work with a lot of kids who have those moments that they cling to, and so just going slow with that, because otherwise, like you want to have water safety, but not ever getting water safety because you're scared of being in the water isn't helpful either. Okay. You're good. Um, so the
Okay. Good. I think it's gonna look like an airplane in a minute.
That's okay. A traditional approach also assumes like that there's understanding and recognizing of social cues and language. Um,
Yeah, signs.
yeah.
So we'll never look at a sign.
Yeah, assuming like recognizing signs, having functional communication, assuming like the understanding or even following and responding to directions and being able to generalize those skills. So what you might do at home in the bathtub, you do like in a kiddie pool or in the pool at the community center or the lap pool. It's assuming that those are kind of all generalized when that might be the case. Like the temperature or change in depth can definitely also change your like skill set.
When slipping, I mean, like you said, at the lake or at the pond, it's like you step in thinking it's gonna be shallow, but then and if it's sloped in and it's slimy and slope in a lake, it's not.
Yeah.
No, that stuff is not the same as even a pool to a lake is what I'm thinking. Like here it's slimy and slippery, and here it's
Taking into like all that texture,
the texture on the bottom.
content consideration.
Like muddy that you sink in or sandy or.
Yeah.
Just stuff we even think about that matters to them.
Yeah. And then also like, I mean, we've kind of already hit on this, that danger isn't always perceived. So whether it's water in any form, like can be reinforcing, even if it's like rushing water. Also often like seeking sensory input or having like a no fear response, does not or equals more risk taking. And then fear-based messaging doesn't change access seeking behavior. And I think that's like a lot for parents too, is like a lot of messages are kind of fear-based. And it's like, well, if drownings are still occurring, it has to do with like a lack of support for the families as well as the children.
And separating like this terrible, scary thing to like, well, that's not what I was doing. I was just gonna put my feet in. Or like the separation, like, yeah, the fear messaging, and I'm going to avoid these certain things, but it's the more harmless seeming stuff that gets you, I'm sure.
Yeah. So if I'm like thinking like with kids, like you can talk about danger, but it's like if you don't have access to it safely or experience it safely, then it's like harder to imagine that maybe. And so if you're not engaging in it safely, then and you have really high motivation to like seek water, you're more likely to just when you have access be less safe with it. And then yeah.
Those impulse emotions that you want to do, you will ignore those other ones and those other things because of fear. In your mind, well, I'm going to say, I'm going to just put my feet in because I just want to feel cool on my feet and, and they won't think about it.
Yeah.
And that fear, like, stay away, stay away, stay away, stay away. But they want, yeah. So as soon as you turn away is when they would go for it.
Yeah,
Let's see.
yeah. And so what families actually need outside of like a one size fits all approach is instead of relying on like pamphlets and fear, it's like routines that can be easily practiced and reinforced. Plans that can be shared across like environments and caregivers. So whether it's like you taking them to the pool or like a grandparent, um, you can have a plan for a specific behavior or like how to approach specific behavior. So that you're increasing safety across people and environments. Also like a lot of like fear messaging and mongering for parents like isn't working. Like that's not decreasing drowning rates. And I don't think like, I mean, there's a reason why, like it's not necessarily motivating and giving families in the community skills if you're just talking about all the like bad statistics.
But I'm thinking even with camp, like to ask people, like, does your child gravitate toward water? Do they, like
Yeah.
leave the group to, check something out? I mean, just as a question to ask people to find out even in the beginning, like, is this likely something we should really watch for? Are they comfortable? If we don't do too much, I mean, there's a hike maybe or whatever, but like, we don't do too much around water, but like we said, caregivers and teachers and camp and stuff. Like Alyssa goes on field trips, they call it CBI, community-based instruction. Like we went to outdoor campus, which doesn't have, well, there's a pond there.
Like,
Yeah, but I wonder if that's anything. That's right, yeah. Yeah, there's a pond, yeah, I forgot about one in the front too. But I think they hike around the whole thing. But it's like, I wonder if they know which students of theirs, because I'm thinking of a couple in particular that I know from Special Olympics, that they're in her class, that are fast runners.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really, really important to know.
Yeah. We should do this with some of her teachers. Well, I'll share this, like some of these little bits, but yeah, that's teachers for sure, and camp people, and like if it's just on your radar, even one level.
Yeah.
Do anything. Think about it more.
Yeah, I'm more aware. I had I have a BCBA friend who lives in New Jersey, and last summer one of her clients drowned at a summer camp because they just simply weren't aware of the skills. And yeah, the kids had both behavior and water skills and
so many lives forever. Like how could you, if you were the camp counselor, how could you ever recover? That'd be tough.
Yeah. And so even like those simple like assessments that you were talking about, like, okay, who has or who's more at risk for wandering, even if like the water isn't really close to it, it's like half a mile or you can see it, or they've previously been there and can get to it, or it's been part of their routine at some point, it just increases that risk.
Walking on the lake, kind of near the ride a bike. The first time when we turned around and looked back, she was on the bike anymore, but she's just going along with me.
Yeah, if her bike would.
I knew that it was just all.
I think about all the time, like, oh, that's right through town and really accessible. And yeah, if you're out as a family doing activities, it's
And even a couple of schools, I mean, Meadowbrook School is real close, and Canyon Lake School used to be quite close. He's doing an art project with a dude I met. And with a worker at the library. He's nice. Cool, huh?
But he has in the airplane. And he's on the same.
Not right now. When he comes back a little later, he could.
Is he here?
Just the same amount of time.
So this is a little, um, look at behavior and why certain behaviors occur. So what are access and escape behaviors? So behaviors that move an individual towards something, and then escape is, behaviors that an individual is trying to get away from something. And so for water-based activities, it's oftentimes access-based. So it's like they're going toward water because they're either wanting to access it, or there's like a sensory-based piece to it. Sometimes there is though that like escape where you end up in a situation where you don't want to be in the water, but you're there, it's unexpected. Maybe you're like on a boat or like on a dock, like you're running away from, say, like a picnic. You're not interested in the picnic, you're kind of off on your own, and then you end up in a situation that can be really dangerous.
Is that a kind of in the ABA category?
Yeah.
Just on your chin.
Yeah. So I was like, here's my ABA background.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and for functions too, kind of that.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. It all comes together though, and
Yeah.
it applies perfectly to this.
Can we go now?
Do you want to do some coloring? I can't leave yet. I'm
How about if you and me take a little walk? Sounds good?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with ABA at all.
No.
Okay, so that's part of my background. It stands for Applied Behavior Analysis, and just looking at a lot about the environment and how it affects your behavior, and looking at communication and how you can teach different skills so that you're meeting needs appropriately instead of through, like, say, having a tantrum. And so this just kind of walks through how this fits into swimming. So in the last slide, we looked at access and escape, and this kind of expands it a little bit more. So within access and escape, there's behavior occurs because of access to a tangible. So we could think of like water as being like an activity or an item. Access to attention. So, like some instructors give this a lot with like being splashed in the face. It's like, I mean, sure, it's like kind of annoying, but it's also like can be really fun, like social activity. And so recognizing like splashing someone in the face is also just wanting to be engaged with them. And then access to sensory. So for the water, it could be just like the repeated kind of splashing or looking and like kind of stimming. And then, like I talked about, escaping from demand. So like avoiding busy pools or swimming lessons. If someone's had a really hard time with water, swimming lessons, had a bad experience, you might engage in like running away, or screaming. And so just recognizing, that behavior is telling you something, and then kind of working on how to give functional like language for that. It rose. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so this is just kind of expanding on it. That behavior isn't random. So if you're having wandering toward water, it's not just like going to be a one-time thing. It's not random. It oftentimes has like a reason behind it. So understanding like behavior and patterns and being able to predict allows us to come up with better plans of how to stay safe. Other environmental contributors that add to drowning risks is like unfenced or unlocked pools. I mean, bathrooms at home. I've worked with clients before where they would escape to the bathroom and turn on the shower and try to flood the bathroom. And so just recognizing like a more simple approach would be having a lock like on the bathroom door, having locks on windows, doors that go to the outside. And then what, like adds to risk is the water in the area that's just like open. So whether it's like a lake or the river.
My neighborhood, a friend of mine has like a koi pond in the backyard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure his neighbors have access. I mean, nobody has fences out there. It's just like houses. And then
Yeah.
in the backyard, it would be pretty easy for a neighbor child to come over. And even the parents may not even know it's there. I mean, if it's 2 houses down, you might not know.
Yeah.
It's in your neighbor's backyard.
Yeah. No, I like that because it just draws back to the fact that it's like a community effort. And so if you have that in your backyard or even like a hot, I know there's lots of hot tubs here. And so like making sure that like your hot tub even is like properly closed and locked so that someone else who knows you have a hot tub can't just end up in your hot tub. So having that, yeah, community awareness, letting other people around you know, or like being able to recognize kind of those risks. And then behavior patterns that increase risk is just like being drawn to water for whatever reason, the elopement, not responding to your name, or not responding to safety rules. So a big one would be if someone's not responding to stop or wait. It doesn't just like magically happen around something you really, really want. And so really working on like those safety skills at home and then the community. So you have more practice at home before bringing it to an area where if there's an error in it, it's not going to be as like detrimental in that moment. Okay, 9 simple proactive safety strategies. So we kind of already talked about this, like having locks on doors and windows, pool fencing. I know there's like a lot of kiddie pools around here, not so much like underground pools, but just kind of thinking about that.
Ground above ground.
Oh yeah, they're
3
above
feet
ground,
tall.
yeah.
That would be enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And people don't cover those, do they? I guess
And if it is covered, it's like a
you could
plastic tarp type
yeah,
cover.
which you maybe to fall into would be bad too.
Yeah.
So you could remove the ladder, I suppose. If
That's
you
what we remove the ladder.
the most preventative thing to do, but your boys are like, they can move the ladder over there. I mean, at a certain point,
Yeah.
a little guy wouldn't do that, but as they get older, they can just make it happen.
Ladders aren't outside without us.
Right.
When the pool's
Yeah.
full, which it is not yet, so.
No, I mean, that's good because I'm like, yeah, that like supervision is also the other piece. Is It's like you're just not outside without an adult. Don't know what's going to happen. And you also just don't want it to like be really high motivator and kind of tempted. So even like emptying water buckets in your backyard or making sure that the bathtub is empty, removing like toys or items from the bathtub because that can also cause some drowning is kids seeing toys and then falling into the bathtub that's not fully drained. So safer water routines that can be applied is using visuals or timers to show kind of like an open or closed time of like water-based activities. Practicing directions at home before you bringing them to the pool in the community or like the lake. Also like working on stop and wait, like even like in the bathroom, like it might seem kind of silly, but if there's that draw to water, just even working on it in like those really small areas at home before the risk is too high, like out in public. Reinforcing correct responses right away. Creating routines like at home and then introducing them to the community. That can also help with predictable routines. So if you're like driving by some water, it's not always like no, no, no. It's like it could be part of the routine that like you do things at home, or if you drive past the pool, like it's planned out that you're going to go there. So you're not just always strengthening the no.
because of the backlash of that, like, okay, now she's not looking to it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, practicing water safety at home. Also, like having a designated weight spot, whether it's like at the pool or at a lake where like you could have like an actual wait sign or a stop sign, but like also just a towel, maybe like where you put like your bag or like your home zone. And that kind of just is like the wait spot before family goes into the pool. You always get permission. You always wait there first. That's where everyone goes for breaks. Like that's just kind of your home zone. And that becomes like the expectation. Um, Active supervision. We talked a little bit about that. Um, I know it gets like it can be really boring too. And so like cell phones have definitely caused like more drownings. Because like when they're out, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna like, look at my phone really quick. I'm really bored. Like I'll know when I hear something, but like drowning in silent and it happens really quickly. And so there's definitely been an increase in drownings with an increase of like accessibility to phone.
Parents are probably just a little bit less involved, a little less out in the water with their kids.
Yeah,
Because they
yeah.
prefer to be up on the beach and the kids are fine. Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I know that's not like super motivating for parents or caregivers. And so it's like, hey, what if you're just like actively engaged during this time? Because then you're not like tempted to look on your phone or kind of just like walk away, take a little break. Like if you take a break, everyone takes a break. Or if they're in the water, you're kind of like actively involved. So whether it's like, I don't know, playing with buckets or like them showing you a back float or, like just being silly, like just being more active in that supervision. And then definitely during like transitions too, recognizing like if you're leaving a building or transitioning between caregivers, that's a time where there's like higher risk involved. And then same with like lifeguarding is when they looked at the data for facilities where there was higher drowning rates, it was during lifeguards were transitioning. And so they changed that so that there's if someone's coming to them, the lifeguard's not already leaving, like you have two sets of eyes now. You kind of get filled in and then the other lifeguard leaves. So I thought that was like really huge to be able to see that data. And then, yeah.
That makes it, I mean, it's probably a small deal, like a 1 minute exchange, but
Exactly. Yeah. But it was,
tag the person and you don't.
it was big enough, like that small gap was like big enough that that's when higher rates of drowning at facilities occurred. And so just creating a plan to predict, prevent, and protect. So water safety starts before the water is even in sight, predicting the pattern and preventing the risk. So protect through consistent support. So you're just kind of like observing routines that might lead to wandering, observing, what is motivating, what's not motivating, watching for patterns, identifying triggers or risks, opportunities. So like even at like this camp you guys were talking about, like recognizing, okay, who is most likely to wander during this time and be really aware of that so that can't even occur.
Did you say it's more likely, like if a child has wandered off before or headed toward water before, it's more likely that they will again?
Yeah. If that like, if they're showing interest in water, and whether it's like sensory based or, I guess you won't necessarily always know, but
yeah, it would be interesting. Like I'm thinking on these forms to have, has your child ever wandered away, wandered toward water, particularly just as I see.
And I mean, that's what I have on my assessments is it's just like, if it happens once, I feel like it's usually not a one-time thing when I hear about it.
Yeah.
But even that one time is like too much because it could be more. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's great for like assessing or just asking.
And if something happened and you knew it had happened once before, you should with yourself like, oh, if it had happened the first time, you might say, oh, there's no way I could have known this was going to happen. But as if there was clues for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like if like the client that I was working with that would like flood his bathroom. Um, that was kind of like a cue that going out in public was going to be harder around water, and so, yeah, if you're seeing those cues at home, definitely start putting plans into place.
Gotta find some different ones. Do you want fresh ones? We walk again. Okay, we'll go together. Yeah, of course.
And this kind of goes back to what we had talked about with accessing water, whether like you're accessing it or escaping it. And so giving like language for it. So if someone's wanting to access water, like first sense, it could be like, oh, first we're all going to meet in home zone, then we're going to go to the water together. That becomes like an expectation, waiting for permission, asking for permission, and it could be like verbally or with visuals. So if someone's like wanting attention, you could teach them kind of like play with me or join me. Access to sensory, providing those safe opportunities to spend year in the water, so that you're not like increasing that motivation to find water at some point if it's always no. And then creating like a calm space or access to breaks or bringing headphones if it's just too much at the pool. So then looking at creating a customized plan, it's not about fear, but it's about knowing your child's patterns. Do they tend to wander or, seek water at any attempt? How do they respond to transitions and noise? Are they able to request help or express like needs? Like that can be really important, especially if that language isn't there yet. And then kind of just looking at strengths and needs. So quick risk and planning assessment. Do they seek out water independently? Like, would they wander without permission to access water? So kind of like when we were talking about, if it happens one time, then that should be on your radar. Do they respond when called or redirected? Do they have a way to communicate and ask for help? Are supervision handouts and boundaries clearly set? So that would be kind of like camp phase two, like recognizing those times. And then high risk areas like bathrooms and yards, like are they secure? And then do you know where water is within your community? So those are some questions. And then predict, prevent, protect. So predicting, okay, if something already happened, it could happen again. So how can I help prevent that? What triggers do I know? How can I increase like more strategies and structure? Definitely want to reinforce that. And then water safety starts before water is even in sight. So you can do that by using like visuals, creating a predictable like bath routine or, community routine, posting those simple steps and reminders for the family or like a camp, including break times. I also think break time is really important when, really for kids in general, when they like love water and aren't going to be responding or recognizing those cues for your body to take a break. So just getting ahead. It's just like everyone is just simply taking a break at this point in time. That also kind of just gets ahead of exhaustion and which could, be injurious later on. So, teaching those routines at home. And then, yeah, if elopement occurs, immediately start searching the area, call your emergency contacts and call 911. Give them the details. They say like search water first for people who elope, and then like any type of behavior or medical information might be crucial because time is not on your side at this point. So I wish I had like a map of the area that had exact like water, all the waterways, and then, yeah, there is.
What area of town you're on.
That is pretty much all. Kind of talked a lot about this already. Do you have any questions? I know you had said that they like swimming, but like don't necessarily have basic swim skills at this point. So I don't know if you have certain needs or questions. Sounds like you're pretty aware of kind of safety things. Oh, yeah. 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 And those like all of those steps like can make the transition really long for like younger kids, and like so I can see that time also being just like really hard. Like, can we just get to the water already? And then it just kind of like builds and builds and builds. Yeah.
It's still,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really important. Were there any like strategies in here that you found to be helpful? Sorry, I kind of just put you on the spot. Yeah.
Mhm. Even in the tub, my oldest has transitioned to showers, but my youngest still prefers a tub. And even just talking about stuff in there, like he'll lay down and put his head underwater and stuff, and just talking about some stuff even and then, or he'll be red faced from just sitting in there too long and then we'll talk about, hey, you're gonna have to get out.
Yeah.
Be in here this long.
Yeah.
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 Doesn't seem like it makes sense. See, it can happen.
Fear though, and not tying a lot of things to fear type things because that doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially for nerd, like I am, and myself and my boys, we're all autistic and we all are drawn to water. Like water is our calm, it's our soothing. It's our, like I'm the one that just stands in the shower to just like get the water, which is why it sucked moving from Florida.
Yeah, to like the desert.
Like that's why I said water safety has always been big with us. Because
Yeah.
we are drawn to water.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I definitely have like that's where I go when I have like really stressful days. It's like trying to find water and just kind of just like watching it move and like nothing else around me like matters. And I'm just like, wow, like there are differences in terms of like I recognize like this is dangerous if I were to like jump in this specific water right here.
especially if you like disassociate.
Yeah.
She's not even there, and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, a lot of it's not that. It's just being able to recognize like what's safe and what's not, and like when is appropriate to like go in the water versus not. And I mean, a lot of it starts at home, and
You're not gonna go, oh, it's not gonna happen, no, it don't happen, oh, no, it's just saying, but then, oh, see, it just happened. Not going, no, it can't happen.
yeah,
It's not necessarily, it's just a recognition. You know, this is how this environment, so you cannot, be dangerous, but, then they're like, yeah, then that means just a little listen, happen, he's trying to ask, it can happen. I'm like, oh.
yeah. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, if it happens, and I like to say, well, but if it happens, it's when it happens. And so it's like if you can put and right for anything, it doesn't have to be drowning. But like if you are able to put in all types of different like strategies or prevention, then it lowers your risk of that event happening.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the childhood and then
Oh yeah.
so like I said, he's quite risk. She does being outside,
Mhm.
and so she can get through and she'll.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, so right now, we're using a big enough to go, put the fingers on the spot skills everywhere. So for now, it looks really good. She's kind of our little figure. She figures out things very quickly. But at the moment, really she can figure out her mouth.
Mhm.
So that's why we have those. I know it's frustrating with some others, like, it's annoying sometimes, and others, it's like, easily, and I can't figure this thing out.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. And I mean, that's really important that you say that, because then you're always educating whoever comes to your house, and like that you can't just like take, like it's there for a reason.
Just dismantle the safety feature.
Yeah.
it's nice to say, it's the doors.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's fast.
Yeah.
Not with these shoes. They're like spy glasses, thank you.
Oh. Well, I think those are great.
I haven't looked at my wallet.
The
Oh.
leads happens, especially for us, that would be the one we should work on, because like even just at the pool, she's in such a hurry to get out there
Oh, yeah.
at the Roosevelt pool that she's in the water boat.
See that a few times. I was like, I should probably say so.
No, I mean, currently it's fine. She can swim, and she's actually like I've let her.
She's a strong swimmer.
She's getting there with your help. Special Olympics, and I mean that's what you just got to get her to know more and get her where she's actually doing strokes. But so I'm not worried about her. But I mean, it is just kind of a bad habit we've developed that she just goes on like without me. She knows I just would like to go pee in peace and then get my own food on real quick. And so I give her 5 minutes ahead of me, but really I should just first go out and say thank you first. Let's stop here first. Yeah.
Unfortunately, better to start talking about it.
That's good.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, depending on where we're at, that could be a bad habit I have.
All together, it's all together.
Yeah,
I can't go in the water if we're not there. Definitely can't get in the pool if I'm not in the pool. Only get in the pool if I'm next to it. If we're at the lake, they can't do anything without me being there. Declan doesn't get in without his life jacket, and he will make sure, like he is so routine driven.